And we're live. What's up, Mr. Will Campbell?
Not too much.
So you're my cousin.
Right.
Your dad and my mom are siblings.
Correct.
Man, that's cool. And you're also a farmer.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Well, grew up on a farm. Was just beef cattle, and here recently started raising some meat chickens.
Yeah.
And now planning on adding some egg layers and some pork to the farm.
So I thought farmers raised crops. You're raising animals. What's the deal with that? When does a farmer become a rancher? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Why aren't you a rancher? Is that just a Texas thing?
What are you doing throwing these trick questions at me? Well, I don't know. We do raise some crops or put up some hay. Just we don't sell crops, but we do make some hay just to winter the cattle or to just kind of make feed. But
so the main thing that you're doing is the cows and the chickens right now. What did it look like growing up? Like what? Because your dad's been a farmer pretty much his whole life, right?
Right.
And so what did it look like growing up?
Well, he was farming on the side. He was banking and farming on the side, and finally got to where he could just farm. And then he's been expanding the farm, I guess, here the last few years. But yeah, he had beef cattle herd, and it just kind of kept growing.
So he's exclusively beef cattle,
right?
And so when you were growing up, you're working the farm with him, you're helping him. Are those like chores? Are they like optional things? Like how does it, like growing up in the suburbs where I grew up, it's like, I gotta mow the lawn, I gotta take out the trash, I gotta do chores, but it's not farming. So how does that work? Like as a kid growing up on a farm?
Oh, it was, it was awesome. I mean, I don't know what it would have been like, if I wouldn't have liked it, but I loved it. So I was just, out there farming, probably in his way more than helping, or, but now I loved it. I just grew up on a farm and loved it, and knew I wanted to. I didn't know I would be able to farm like for a living. I always wanted the farm to be part of my life, but I didn't know, that I could make a go of it just farming.
Right. Right. So growing up, I mean, like obviously, like you went to school and you did the normal school thing. So did you wake up and like work cows and stuff before school and then after school, or did your dad just kind of do it while you're at school and then you helped out more in the summers?
Yeah, we helped some out, during the school, like on after school or weekends and summers. And then there were, some days, like if we had a big day, he'd let us maybe go to school late. We'd work for a while in the mornings if it was a big, big chore. But yeah, it was fun. It was
That's
fun.
Cool. And then so your dad sort of, like, obviously he grew his farm and land, but also grew his herd size, right? So describe to me, like, how does the cattle business work? Like, how does your dad, does he like breed cows, and does he raise them and then sell them for meat, or like how's his business work?
Well, he has a cow-calf operation, and so he's got mama cows, and he gets and bulls, and gets the cows bred, and the cows will raise a calf, and then they used to just sell them right off the cow. Like buyers would come in and make a deal on the calves, and then they would just, whenever they're weaned, they would be sold then.
How long does it take? How long is a cow pregnant?
It's about like 9 months.
About 9 months.
Yeah.
And then they have the calf, and then how long is the calf with the mom before they're weaned?
It depends, but that a cow can have a calf every year, so you want to try to pull the calf off, and it could be like if a calf's born in March, we'll wean them like October, November,
Okay. That makes sense. So about 6 months.
Yeah, and sometimes longer, but it could be 6 to 8, not more than 10. You definitely want to pull them off of there a couple months before they're going to calve again.
Oh, okay. So wait a minute. So before they calve again or before they're bred again?
See, the cows will like a spring. A cow that has a calf in the spring will put the bulls back in in June. So that cow will get bred 2 or 3 months after she has a calf, and then
got it.
That way she'll have a calf again the next spring.
Okay. So wow. Okay. So the cows are having calves every year, like you were saying.
Right.
And then so the way your dad's operation works is he'll wean them after about 6 months, and then when he was starting, you said he would sell the weaned calf. How heavy?
He would sell them in the fall,
okay,
or just whenever it's time to wean the calves.
Right.
Just sell them, and they would be 600 pounds.
Okay.
5 to 7 in that range.
And then who's buying this cow or these cows?
Oh, that's a good question. That was there used to be just kind of some buyers that would just come in and kind of price them and look at them, and they would just kind of trade on them.
And is it just sold by the pound?
Right.
And so if the cows look good, then it's whatever, $3 a pound, $2 a pound, something like that. Right. And then who sets that? Is it just the market that sets that per pound cost? Or?
Right. There's like a like a commodity market for feeder cattle.
Right.
that price is going to be based on, and it can be up or down, depending on the quality or where they are, how far they've got to be shipped, or a lot of factors, but they're all based around whatever that commodity market
Got
is.
it. So there'll be some sort of market price, and then if you're selling a higher quality breed, like what determines the quality of a cow?
Right. Yeah. Breed. The buyers are looking for carcass carcass potential, and just kind of the quality of the animal. I guess how just what kind of shape they're in. If they're fleshy or lean, or or color. A lot of people want black-coated cattle. And steers are worth more than the heifers, but
really, why is that?
Well, I guess the carcass weight, and
they'll just get bigger.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so then people buy them, and then they'll take them from that 600-pound weaned calf into. I mean, how big does a cow get?
Oh, that's good. I don't know what they're finished at. Probably like 1,500-1,600 pounds.
Oh, wow.
If I was guessing, out at the feedlots, but I'm not positive.
Yeah. So I mean, but you're going north of 1,000 pounds for most cows.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So then they're slaughtered, and then obviously like that's what you eat. So how much meat are you getting off of a cow? Like if you were to buy a cow and then put that cow in your freezer, how many pounds of meat are you talking?
Like 1,100 pound, 1,200 pound. I would say like end up with 400 pounds of meat in the freezer, maybe. Wow. That's a lot
of burgers.
Right, it is a lot of burgers. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So your dad sort of started this operation doing calf cows, and is that primarily still what he does?
Yeah, he used to have Angus cows and cross them with a Charolais bull. They're big white bulls. And then whenever he started kind of growing his herd, he really wanted to kind of control the genetics, and instead of just going out and buying more cows to expand, he wanted to kind of build his herd. That way he knew what he has, so he started just keeping a lot more heifers. Instead of selling heifers, he would just sell the steers and keep the heifers and breed them and build them into the herd, and kind of expand it that way.
Expand the herd.
So he really kind of got into the genetics and getting really good bulls that had good maternal traits that would make good cows.
Wow. I had literally no idea this much went into it. I guess it makes sense because if you're breeding every single year, you don't want, you don't want to give a mama cow her son.
Right.
So where do you get the bulls? Like, does your dad own like 5 or 6 bulls?
Yeah, he has several.
So he has several bulls, but then you can also go out and just get, get a bull with totally different genetics, so that you're not like, I don't know what the word is. So
right.
So your herd is healthier.
And you kind of have to keep, especially if you're keeping your heifers, obviously, if your heifers are going to be mama cows in your herd, you don't want them bred to their sire. So you kind of either have to keep really good records with which bulls breeding which cows, or every couple of years replace your bulls.
Right. Hold on one second. All right. Sorry about that. So, all right. So you keep records of each cow, and then you track who the bull is of that cow, or so when you're breeding with the cows in your herd, you're keeping track of the bull that sired the offspring of the next generation, right?
Right.
Okay, and then you're bringing in new genetics kind of all the time, and you're trying to like over time evolve the herd into what are you looking for? Just good, strong maternal traits, like what are you looking for?
Right. Good, strong maternal traits.
And so what's that look like? Is it like a certain frame? Is it a certain size? Is it what their calves look like?
Right. Black hided cows tend to be more marketable.
Why is that?
Black Angus, I don't know, people just kind of put black with Black Angus, and
they just seem to do better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But not that there's not a market for other kinds of cattle.
Right.
But yeah, frame, you want, or my dad, he kind of wanted like a medium framed mama cow. Doesn't quite take quite as much, they don't eat as much, you don't have to, it doesn't take as much feed to winter them, and then breed them with maybe a little framier bull, and then get some, little stretchier calves, I guess.
Like longer.
Right.
Wow. I literally had no idea this much thought went into it. I mean, it makes sense. Like when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, I guess that, that totally makes sense. But like when you're just going to the grocery store, you see beef and you're like, oh, well, it just like, you don't think about what goes into that showing up. So your dad went from just doing calf cow to keeping a lot of his heifers and then turning those heifers into more cows for his herd.
Right.
So let me make sure I got this right. So when a cow is born, it's either it's considered a calf, but you can have a calf that's either a heifer or a bull.
Right. And
then you turn the vast majority of the bulls into steers by castrating them. And then so first off, why do you do that? Is it so that you can control your herd better?
That's the way my dad always did it. The way they, if you look at a bull, they're just, you've seen the difference in a bull and a big steer.
They're huge.
Right.
They're huge, and they're angry, and they look just tough.
Right.
I would imagine that you're not eating bull when you go to the store and get beef.
I mean, they'll probably make hamburger out of the bulls that are culled onto the market.
Okay.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. But the vast majority.
I'm sure somebody's eating it.
Yeah.
But I don't.
The vast majority of, so if you get a steak at a grocery store, you're probably getting a steer or heifer that's just gone to the market.
Probably, that's I mean, I like to say probably, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's really part of the reason why we're kind of starting to finish our own. That way we do know what steaks we're eating.
Right.
But yeah, probably a steer or heifer that's finished in a feedlot. Yeah.
Yeah. So a cow is born. You either pull it off and make it a bull that you're going to use to populate or maybe sell somewhere else so that it doesn't cross contaminate within your own herd. Then you're going to take your dad has been taking a lot of the heifers from the herd and then making cows out of them.
Right.
That way that they can repopulate the herd. And you said something else. So you said cull the bull. So presumably your dad is going to take some of the heifers and then replace some of the older mama cows.
Right.
So how many calves does a cow have in her?
The good ones have a bunch.
Like 10?
Yeah. I mean,
15?
Yeah. I mean, some of them get to be pretty old.
Wow.
And those are, so pretty much we just kind of cull, like if we get them checked when we wean the cows, get them preg checked, and we kind of use, if they're not bred back, we'll cull unless they're really really good and really young and want to maybe push a spring calver to a fall calver or something.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you put the bull in. So you'll put the bull in. Presumably, the bull just does what the bull does to all the cows in the herd, and then a few weeks later, you're going to check to see if those cows are pregnant. And then if a cow isn't pregnant, then you're assuming that there's probably something wrong with that cow, or at least that cow doesn't have like the best genetics. And if they're not able to get pregnant once, maybe twice.
Right. Sometimes it's hard to justify, feeding a cow for a year that's not raising a calf.
Right. Yeah.
So, and just kind of looking at body condition, and we can kind of keep up with how old they are with their, with their ear tags. But we look at just body condition more than the age, really. As long as they're maintaining good body condition and raising a good healthy calf and they're getting bred back, then we just keep them in the herd.
Right. And so then if they don't get pregnant, maybe if they're young, maybe if there's a few variables, you'll push them back half a year, put them in a different breeding cycle. But otherwise, you're going to cull that calf and then, or that cow, and then you're going to you have your replacement heifers that come in, but you're also expanding your herd with additional heifers that are being born.
Right.
Okay. So now, if out of all the boy cows, out of all the bulls that are born, you're taking most of those, you're castrating most of those, and you're raising those as steers, and then you're selling those. Yep. And those are what, a lot of what you eat.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. So now your dad is so your dad is doing sort of growing his herd and playing, like, figuring out the genetics, improving the genetics of his herd. Is he still in that growth process, or what's the limiting factor for how big you can grow your
grass?
Okay.
How much land or grass you have available, and he was able to rent some other pastures close by, and
so if you had, like just for frame of reference, if you had 100 cows, I don't know if this math will work, if you know this math off the top of your head, but if you had a herd of 100, how much land would you need to be able to manage that many cows?
If I would say, keeping them through the year and, making feed or winter them, probably 250 to 300
acres.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
like mama cows that raise calves, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so, all right, man. Okay. So the limiting factor for your dad is the amount of land, basically, right? Because like you've been talking a few times about feedlots. Now, I'm a little familiar with the feedlot concepts. You know, you watch documentaries on Netflix or whatever, but like, have you ever been to a feedlot? Do you know like what goes on there? Like, or do you know what that means?
Yeah, I mean, I being in the cattle industry, I should probably know more about it than I do. But I mean, I've been out west and kind of gone through them, but not been.
Yeah, not been in them, but presumably, or I mean, like, you know, the stories that you hear, just, you know, these cows are just sort of stationary in this one spot. Maybe they have a small pen, or maybe there's a large group of animals in this pen, and then the feed just sort of comes to them. They're fed a lot of grain, soy, you know, and that sort of stuff. And then the goal of the feedlot is just to take them from maybe that 600-700 pound cow, turn them into that 1,500 pound cow, and then put them on the market. Is that like more or less?
Right.
And most of what you see there, or at least my opinion or my impression of what happens there, is they're just trying to get as many animals in as small a space as possible to, you know, really work the numbers, I guess.
Right. And I don't know if that's their goal to get as many as, but yeah, that's kind of the way it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know how, you know, I guess out there is where all the feed is. So they're making all this feed and storing it, and then just trying to feed them all close to where the feed is.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay, because they have just beautifully flat, beautiful pastures, and then they can make as much.
They make lots and lots of feed,
yeah.
And then so they keep the cows close to where the feed is.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, and a lot of times, so when you sell cows from here, a lot of times they'll just go out to the west and they'll go to feedlots out there. If you sell it on, you know, the commodity market.
Right, that's where they'll. Yep.
Okay.
That's where they'll end up.
So the way. So now that your dad sort of has expanded his operation into the land that he has, he's mostly just maintaining his herd now. Is he like focused on growing it, just like improving the genetics and just continuing to just have a better breed?
Right.
Okay.
He did get to where he can. I guess whenever he started keeping those replacement heifers, or building his herd with heifers, he started, instead of selling the steers off the cow, he would wean the steers. And instead of selling a 600 pound steer, he would wean that steer and graze it and get it up to like 800 pounds or something.
Okay.
But other than, that's about, you know,
that's about
what he's doing now.
Okay. That's cool. And so you know, obviously born in this, onto this farm and into this farming family, and then just growing up on the farm, you learned, you know, the way that your dad did business.
Right. Yeah.
And he does business really well. You know,
right.
Like he's a very good, you know, good farmer, right? So when you were starting, you know, you were talking about like you were trying to see if there was a way that you could become a farmer and if you could do this full time because that's where your passion is. So tell me about how you sort of, you know, like how you went from, I guess, finishing up college and trying to figure out what you're going to do with your life, and then realizing that you could make it work in farming. You know, like how did that process?
All right. Well, I'm
up?
still trying to figure out if I can make it work in farming. It's not. But yeah, I studied business in school and kind of went back and forth between business and education. I was thinking maybe teaching. You know, I could farm on the side, you know, with summers and I started milking cows in college. Like came home for a summer and started milking cows at a season. It was a organic grazing dairy over in Sugar Grove, and I really liked it.
That's cool.
And so anyways, he offered me a job right out of college, and so yeah, I started milking cows, and I was able to keep helping my dad, and I started kind of building my own beef herd at that time.
Okay,
and,
like with your dad. So maybe you like using your dad's land, and they would like be.
Well, there was another farm that came up to rent, and I ended up, you know, buying some cows from my dad.
Oh, I see.
So I could start building my, you know, he was just going to kind of let me run that other farm.
Oh, okay.
And so I was.
So then you're just starting your herd on that farm that you're renting.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, I was milking cows and then had some beef cows, and yeah, and really I was kind of thinking about milking, like starting a seasonal, grass based dairy.
Really? Is that what it was? It a grass-based dairy that you were working for?
Right.
Wow. And it was just seasonal, so just during the summer?
Yeah, it was like the cow, like in dairies, the cow gets bred, right, and then has a calf, and then they produce milk.
And they just don't stop.
So they, even the dairies will dry those cows up for a couple months before they calve again.
Oh,
So
I see.
so
Okay.
dairies milk year round, but they'll have some cows dry at
Got it.
like they want. But anyways, this dairy had them all go dry at the same time. So he, instead of having cows getting bred at different times of the year to keep a pretty steady milk flow, he had them all to calve in the spring. That way he could dry them all up, around Christmas or, and then take a little break from milking, and then the cows would all.
That's insane. And so what he would just sell the raw milk, or would he process it further?
No, he had a contract with an organic. I think it was Organic Valley.
Okay. And then he would just sell them the raw cow milk, and they would process it and it become their brand.
Right. And I'm not sure, because they were producing a lot of milk in the spring, and a cow's lactation, like whenever they have a calf, their milk will go up and then it'll gradually go down, So for that dairy, the milk, they were getting a lot of milk June, May, June, July, and then tapered down to not
What's a
very
lot
much.
of milk? I mean, what are we talking, like hundreds of gallons, thousands of gallons?
Well, a lot of milk for this dairy wasn't very much. These weren't producing near what. I mean, these were probably like 30 pounds a day or something.
Okay.
Whereas some cows will, milk 100 pounds a day or more.
Wow.
Right.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so you were doing the dairy thing for a little bit. You were starting your herd, and and you were thinking about maybe starting a seasonal dairy thing. So what sort of tipped it to the cow thing over the dairy thing?
Well, a couple things just kind of happening at the, at the right time, I guess. But we, there was some land that was being foreclosed on.
Yeah.
That we're ended up with and trying to farm it now. But and then also the guy I was milking cows for sold his cow herd and wasn't going to milk. So I was going to have to, change directions, and then this other, land came available, and we were, it was just one of those opportunities that was just once in a lifetime kind of thing.
You just got to take it. It's almost like it was there just for you. Yeah.
And even then, I was still thinking about, maybe starting a dairy on the farm, that I'm farming now. But ended up, getting some beef cattle. The dairy, just getting the equipment and just the milking infrastructure and all that it's just cost a lot more than I could swing at the time. So I was just trying to build just a beef cow herd, and then if I wanted to transition later on, but ended up just kind of going with the beef cattle. And
cool. So you sort of just went all in on this farm. So how many acres are you farming now?
It's like 700 and something, but of that probably over half of it's wooded or mountains. That's not
grazable.
Right.
Oh, got it. So 300, 400 acres,
right,
give or take. And then so you just started to do and basically what your dad was doing, right? Like growing the herd, keeping the heifers, calf cow, and then just working on, raising a bigger and bigger herd until you can fill out your land.
Right.
So more or less
Right.
what was going on. Okay, cool. And then at some point you started getting into chickens, and at some point you started looking at, making a relationship instead of on the commodity market, making a relationship to the consumer and sort of cutting out the middleman, so to speak. So like, how'd you start what was the reason to start, looking at trying to do other things, maybe in addition to what your dad was doing or different than your dad was doing? Like what was sort of the catalyst for that?
Shoot, that's a good question. I guess it kind of gets back to just like our family just really wanted to know what we're eating.
Yeah.
Not like we felt like we were raising a really good beef, really good beef cow, and then we just didn't know what happened to it. And then if you go to the grocery store and get a steak, is that one that we raised or one that, I guess, yeah, we just wanted to, and I'm just speaking for me and my wife, just kind of wanted to know what we were eating.
Yeah. That make, oh man. Okay. So what's the reason? So I guess I should have asked this earlier. Why sell your cows at all? Why not just finish them here? Why does your dad have his operation set up so that he's selling either a 600 or an 800 pound cow? Is it, because I would imagine it takes, I would imagine that the last 300-400 pounds that you put on an animal takes the most amount of food. So is it just a space thing?
And that's a good question, and I'm not really sure how it ended up like that. Like, at what point because if you think about it, it just doesn't make sense the way it is right now, because there's just all the cattle from this area all go to the feedlots, and then from there they're, packaged and distributed back everywhere else. That's a good question, but
it's kind of the way it's been.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I think so unless you sell, because if you take a cow all the way to slaughtering, like the slaughtering weight, and you get it slaughtered, there's not a market for that, maybe, unless you go out and you find somebody who wants that beef.
Right.
But the feedlots have the market. They have all these suppliers, I would imagine, that they're filling. So they buy the cows, they have the market to sell the meat. Maybe that's how it works.
Right.
And then, okay. So I think it's just, if you have a cow herd, you need a place to sell, your beef, and there's a market there. So you sell it to the market.
Exactly.
And the market does with it whatever it wants.
Yep.
That makes sense. Okay. So you and your wife started, just wanting to be a little more conscious about where the food was coming from that's coming into your family. And then, and then the wheels started turning from that. So then what, did you start to finish cows just for your family at that point? Or, I imagine that's what everybody does out here is
Yeah, we used to, we've always kept our freezer filled up with beef from the farm. But yeah, we kind of got onto Joel Salatin and just the way he farms and uses the resources and has just lots of life on his farm.
So Joe Salatin is the patriarch or the godfather of Polyface Farms, right?
Right.
And the Polyface Farms is in, where is it? Midwest Virginia?
Kind of outside of Harrisonburg, I think. Swope.
Okay, so you're in southwestern Virginia. We're in southwestern Virginia right now. Southwest Virginia, basically where Virginia touches Tennessee. So he's, up 81, about 3 hours.
Right.
Okay, cool. So he runs a farm called Polyface Farms, which is probably one of the first farms I doubt it's the first farm, but he made like maybe back in the when did he start? 80s, 70s, 60s. He's been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, his dad was doing it, and he just they just didn't shift to the industrial farming like most farmers did. They just
stayed with the all natural way. And so how would you summarize his farming methods, or how would you describe the way he farms as opposed to, perhaps other people?
Oh man. Oh.
Yeah, or maybe a better way is I'll tell you what I think he does, and then you tell me where I make mistakes.
Right, he's written books and books and books about how his is different
than most other people.
Right. A lot of it's like just animals move. He'll say animals move in nature. But I mean his system is like animals. Pretty much like a pig was created with a snout to root and dig, and a cow to graze, and like he's trying to put these animals in an environment that fits their created purpose, and then that makes it better for the other animals and better for the land and better for the people eating it.
So instead of putting, like, let's say that you had 100 acres, and let's say that on that 100 acres you could fit the 200 cows or 300 cows or whatever. So at some point, like that's all you got, right? Like you can add more cows, but now there's not going to be enough grass for all the cows, so now you need to bring in more feed. And so maybe that, even if that feed is really natural feed, you're still just overpopulating the area.
Right.
So instead of increasing the value of that 100 acres by adding more cows, he would add chickens and have the chickens go and, egg laying chickens or whatever, and spread the manure of the cow, and then they'd come in to their huts or, coops or whatever, and then they would lay chickens. And now he has cows and eggs. And then he rolls like chickens that you ultimately eat. He'll roll those through the fields, and that'll help, again, spread the manure and, better for the grass, and then grow chickens. And so now on the same grass, he has cows, chickens to eat, and eggs. And then he might put pigs in a part of the woods where the cows don't really go, where it's like wooded. And now the pigs are in that part, and then he might put lambs on the grass with the cows because they eat a different part of the grass. And so now, instead of just one animal and like a very singular focus on the farm, he's got the farm singing in 5 or 6 different ways.
Right. Yep. He's stacking instead of, looking more vertically than horizontally. And that was part of the, one of the issues that I was struggling with starting my farming, because this farm was, like I said, a once in a lifetime opportunity, but it came with a big payment. And so I was like scratching my head trying to figure out how to make this payment. And so I was like, well, if I'm trying to make a go with this selling cows, I need more cows to sell. So I'm gonna have to get more land to keep the cows. And so I was just thinking I need, more land, more cows, more land, more cows, instead of like, maybe this land and, cows and chickens and pigs and eggs and turkeys, or,
right.
And then what that ends up doing is complementing each other instead of competing. It's not like the chickens and cows are fighting over the same grass. The chickens are making more grass for the cows. So you can keep more, having the chickens in your pasture, you can keep more cows than without them, because they're fertilizing, where you run those chickens. They're putting down like, I can't remember. Joel Southland's mentioned like how much nitrogen per acre it comes out to, but the grass just jumps, and the cows
eat the
grass, and so the more grass you grow, and the more cows you can keep. And
so you run chickens through a field, and the chickens are gonna. You feed the chickens some, but then they also go around and they pick up all the little critters that are in the grass, right? Like they just
and they'll eat grass, yeah.
And they'll eat the grass. Okay, so then the chickens, like in theory, you could run the cows through a field. The cows eat all the fresh grass. They leave a bunch of manure, and then the flies and everything go to the manure, and then larvae and stuff start to grow in the manure, and then you bring the chickens through. The chickens are in they're in their little chicken mobiles that sort of roll over this grass, and so then they spread the manure. They eat the larva, and they eat some of the grass, and then they're obviously drinking water, and they're peeing all over the place. And that pee is the nitrogen. So you're nitrogenating the ground. And
For
then
pooping, they don't pee.
Chickens don't pee? Chickens don't pee? Oh my goodness. Seriously? They drink water.
Yeah. It's weird, right?
Did I not? Am I okay? Am I the only one? Should I have known that?
I don't know.
Is that ridiculous?
Now I'm starting to question it myself. I hope.
Birds poop. Okay, birds liquid poop. I guess that makes sense. You never gotten bird pee on you. Oh wow, man. All right, learning something today.
Right.
All right, cool.
I hope that's right. You sound.
Birds don't pee. Well, human pee has a bunch of nitrogen in it. Human pee, like you pee out, you basically all nitrogen.
Which they do drink water, so yeah. I mean, it's.
I guess they drink the water to just lubricate their poop.
Right.
All right. Well, then they're pooping out nitrogen. All right. So
lots of it.
So birds are just pooping all over the place, and that's good fertilizer for the ground. They're spreading the cow fertilizer and or the cow manure, and then they're eating bugs and stuff, which helps the cows because now the bugs and stuff aren't flying all over the cow's face.
Right.
Cool. All right. So that's sort of like the Joe Salatin model, or maybe not. His model. That's the model that he incorporates. I don't think he invented it, but he certainly perfected it.
Right. Cool.
So then you started seeing the opportunity in maximizing the amount of money, I guess, for lack of better terms, that you could get out of an acre of land if you go vertical with more animals.
Right.
And so then the first animal you diversified with was chickens. Is that right?
And we like to eat chicken. It's, but we want to, I guess we just kind of don't have as much confidence in the industrial food system, or just not. I don't know if I'm gonna eat a chicken, which I like to eat. I want to just know it was raised right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just goes back to like you wanted you and your family to eat the best quality food, and you're spending all this time raising good quality food, but you're going to the grocery store buying who knows what.
Right.
So then you're like, well, why don't we just make good quality food and then sell it to people, basically, right?
Right.
Cool. So you started first with chickens. How did you, and like you just watched Joe Salatin, read his books, and then just copied everything he did?
Well, sort of, yeah, on some YouTube videos, and we found some used processing equipment, and so when we picked it up, we got to help them process some chickens and kind of get a feel for what we were doing, and just jumped in and kind of learning as we go.
Okay, so how does the chicken process work?
Well. The whole chicken process.
Like, are you breeding chickens? Are you hatching little chicks?
No.
Okay. So you buy.
We get the chicks just hatched. We order them, and they come in the mail.
They come in the mail.
They come in the mail.
Like UPS just drops them off.
Well, no, they come through the U.S. Postal Service, and I mean they'll bring them to your house, but usually, like, we know when they're coming, so we'll call the post. Whenever the post office gets them, we just go get them. That way, we can get them, food and water as soon as we can.
Wow. Do they get shipped with food and water?
No, chicks can go like a couple days without food and water. But
wow.
But if they get once they start eating and drinking, like, they have to have it. So if they're, or at least this is the way I understand it. Like if they're fed and watered and then they don't get it whenever they need it, then they'll die. As opposed to like whenever they're born and hatched, they're good for a couple days.
Wow. So you get a box of how many chickens?
However many we order. Yeah.
Like how many, like it literally just comes in a box and you open it up and there's just, how many chicks are in a box?
Oh
like
man.
20, 30, 40, 50?
Like 100 in a box, I guess.
What?
Yeah, they're just itty bitty. Yeah.
Hey,
and fuzzy.
and like you could just order chickens?
It's true.
Wow, I guess I should have thought about that a little more because it makes a lot of sense. I just can't believe they mail it to you.
Yeah, I know. When we started,
that blows my mind.
We started this, we were like, yeah, we need to get some chickens. But then we're like, where do we get our chickens? And so we tried to figure out where Joel Southland got his, and we just, went with that.
Yeah. Okay, so the chicks come in the mail, and they're tiny little things, and what do you do with them then?
So they gotta stay pretty warm. They gotta be like 90 degrees.
Wow.
For a few days, and then the temperature can gradually start going down. But so they call it the brooder. They stay in the brooder for the first days until they are able to adjust to whatever the outside temperature is.
And so they're in the brooder for that amount of time. Are you just slowly lowering the temperature of the brooder while they're in there to acclimate them, or are they just getting bigger and tougher?
They're getting bigger and tougher, but we are we put heat lamps in the brooder, so it's not like the whole brooder is 90 degrees, but they can get to 90 degrees. Mm-hmm. And then so as they get bigger, they just don't stay under the heat lamp as much.
They don't get as, I got it. Okay. They don't get as close.
And then we'll get to where we just don't use the heat lamps, and then
got it. Okay. And then so after how long? Like 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 to 3. And a lot of it's kind of dependent on the outside temperatures. You don't want their first night outside to be, below freezing, or you just kind of got to make sure they're ready for whatever the temperatures outside are.
And then you're putting them outside on grass, and then they're in cages, but the cages are basically there so that the natural predators don't come and eat them all, right?
Right.
So around here, what's that? Coyotes mainly is what you're worried about?
Foxes, raccoons, possums, skunks.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
They'll
rats.
all eat.
Yeah.
I guess if it's small enough. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. So these pens that they're in. So these pens have some water, some shade, and then you just roll these pens over grass. Just you move them each day, each week. How does that work?
Yep, move them every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
You just move them to just a fresh piece of grass.
Mm-hmm. We made them 10 by 12 like Joel Salatin's, and so chickens they don't do very good with wind or with rain. So they need the shelters, for predators, just like you said, because even with the shelters, predators can get in there and do some damage. But yeah, two, the wind and rain, so they're kind of built in a way that they can have access to sunshine or shade. They can get,
They can just kind of go where they want.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it's floorless, so they're it's on the grass, and then part of it's covered, and part of it is just covered with chicken wire, so they've got access to sun and shade.
Got it. Okay.
And yeah, my father-in-law he built a little dolly thing, which Joel Salatin moves all his with the dolly. But so you just raise up one end, slide that dolly under there, and then you pull the other end, and they're
okay.
They're 10 by 12, so you're just pulling them the length of the shelter.
You're moving them
so they get
10 feet, 12 feet, whatever.
Yep.
Cool. And then how long after? So they're in the brooder for 2 to 3 weeks, and then how long are they in the pens? Like how long does a chicken take to?
Yeah, 5 to 6 more weeks. It's like 8 weeks, and they're ready to be processed.
8 weeks total.
Right.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's 2 months.
Yep.
From chick to
it's
chicken.
Yeah, it really is. It's crazy how fast they grow. They come, like you said, in a box, and then 8 weeks later they're like, they're huge.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right.
It is. And those will fill up. If you get 100 chickens, I mean that'll fill up a chest freezer, and a beef will fill up a chest freezer. But it takes a beef, 2 years to get to that size. Whereas these chickens are, it's crazy how fast they grow.
That's a good point. Yeah. So going back to that beef cow, one cow takes 2 years to get that 400 pounds that we were talking about?
Yeah, give or take. Some maybe a little before, but some of them longer. So I would say average 2 years.
And then what's the average weight of a chicken? 8. It's like 6 to 8 pounds. 5 to
probably the carcass weight after being processed is 5 to 6 pounds.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. That's cool. So you've done chickens for 1 season now?
Right.
And so you once it's time to process. So I've actually been down here a few times and helped you with the processing process, which is a lot of fun. And it's actually really, it's a lot different. Honestly, I don't know what I was expecting the first time I came down here. But it's actually really, man, it's a great process. I think a lot of people, they look at the food that they're eating, and they understand that it's animals and everything, but I don't think a lot of people really know the amount of care that goes into, especially with your chicken process. So walk me through how's it go from bird to chicken breast?
Well, first we got to round them up out of the shelters.
Yep.
So we've got crates that we transport them in, and then they go to the kill cones. So we put them head down in the kill cones. And
so it's like a cone,
like
inverted
a funnel
cone,
top,
a funnel, and then the head comes down to the bottom, and so then you just prick the jugular, and then they bleed out.
Yeah.
And then I was watching a video, Joe Salatin saying that because they're inverted, the only thing that they feel is the prick that goes into their neck, and then they immediately pass out because the blood leaves their head and they immediately pass out. So that's the last thing they feel. And so then the blood totally drains out from the carcass or from the body, I guess.
Right.
And then what's the next step?
From there they go to the scalder,
right,
which is scalding water 145 degrees, and so they go in the scalder, and it's like a rotisserie scalder, so
sort of shakes them up, and the idea is that you're gonna loosen up the feathers, right?
Right.
Okay, so they go in the scalder for a minute or so. The feathers get loosened up. You take them out of there.
Put them in the plucker.
The plucker is the person who invented the plucker. I hope that person is so rich. This is up there with some of the top inventions of humanity. There might be the wheel, there might be the fire. There's definitely the guy who invented the plug that goes in the Starbucks hole.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that guy. And then there's the chicken plucker guy. He's
with them for sure.
For 100%.
Yep.
This is the coolest machine I've ever seen in my entire life. How describe it?
Oh man, it's sort of like a tub, like a dryer with a bunch of rubber fingers on it, and the bottom of it spins around.
And it sprays water, and you drop the chickens in there, and then it spins the chickens through this vortex. And then all these rubber fingers are just batting off the feathers.
Shoots the feathers right out.
And then it somehow magically sucks the feathers out, and then it shoots the feathers out. Then you pull this bird out, and it has 99% of the feathers gone.
It's true.
And if you were to try to pluck that chicken by hand, that would be an hour.
Right.
Easy.
Yep.
And this thing, feathers gone.
Yeah.
That's
incredible. The way it is. And see, whenever we were first deciding to get these chickens, we were planning on doing them just by hand, and that's the way everybody around, like my dad and his dad, farmers had chickens and they just go out and kill a chicken and pluck it and fry it or throw it, And so that's kind of what we were thinking. And we went and visited Polyface, and so we were asking them, about their chicken process, and we were like, that chicken equipment, processing equipment is, it's pretty expensive. And so we were thinking, we can, we're just going to start out with a few chickens and just do them by hand. And so we asked them, like at what point do we make the investment in this chicken processing equipment? And he said, with the first chicken, or if not, you won't do any more chickens. It's a game changer. It's a brilliant. It would be hard for us to do this without that chicken plucker for sure.
That chicken plucker is incredible. I mean, y'all got to Google chicken, Joe Salatin chicken plucker, Joe Salatin chicken processing. This thing's incredible. The first time I saw it, like literally my mind was blown. I still to this day have no idea how the feathers get out of there and end up on the floor. It's a David Blaine chicken plucker. This guy's a magician. So the chickens go from the chicken plucker, then they go to a station where you break off the head,
right,
chop off the feet,
yep,
and then they go to the evisceration station, which is my expertise. Like this is where this is my jam.
Yeah.
And then there you basically scoop the neck and pull out all the juicy innards, and then take those out, scoop out the lungs, and then you put them on ice. And then the next step is to either part them or just package them whole. But they're ready to go at that point, right?
Right.
Man. And then you part them, package them, and then you sell them. That's what you do.
Yep.
And then they're ready to eat that day, or do they need to rest, or what? Like they're just ready to go?
Ready to go.
Man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It is. It's pretty cool. It's pretty exciting.
So now you're doing now going back to your beef, or what percentage of your beef is grass fed versus pasture raised, and like how does that look?
Well, this past year, I've got some cows calve in the spring, some in the fall. So my spring calvers are all just grass fed. They're just grazed and just hay in the winter, and then I'll wean the calves just with hay, and so they're just all grass fed. And then the fall calvers, we've been they're on grass all the time, so they're grazing. But whenever we weaned them, we started feeding them a little bit of grain.
Okay.
With the grass.
And so you'll supplement just a little bit of feed during the winter. Because there's not as much grass in the winter,
right,
in Ridge Valley.
Right.
Okay. Cool. So you've got your cows, you've got some grass fed, some grain fed, and then you've got chickens. What's the future? What's the future look like for Will Campbell?
Oh man, that's a good question. We've got a lot of plans and ideas, but turning those into action is
What's the next thing? What's the next animal?
We want to get some pigs. We want to get
pigs.
I love bacon and sausage and pulled pork and we've got a lot of wooded area that would be great for pigs.
Pigs operate in like the wooded area.
Right.
Okay. So
or grass. I mean, they'll eat grass, but
they just like the shade and the mud and the.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's how long is a pig? So a cow you said is 2 years. A chicken's 8 weeks. What's a pig?
I think like 6 months.
Okay, and then it'll be a similar operation to the chickens, where you would buy a little piglet, raise the piglet to a certain size, and then put them in the fields, and then just let them do their thing in the fields.
Right.
Wow, cool, sweet, and then you'll have pigs, and then what's after pigs?
Egg layers, which we're going to do egg layers on a smaller, just kind of just for our family, but eventually we'd like to get to where we can do an egg mobile that follows the cows and have lots of eggs.
Okay, got it. So right now you're your meat chickens are just kind of in sort of random areas around the farm, and you just move them like you said. But eventually you'll have like, what is it? What does Joe Salatin call it? An eggmobile?
Right.
Just this big thing that has how many chickens?
Oh, I think his egg mobiles do like 800 or something.
Wow. And so then 800 chickens are just going out following the cows and just going all over the fields and just going to town on them.
Right.
And then they're not peeing because they're chickens, and chickens don't pee, obviously. So yeah, that's cool. All right, so we're gonna do the egg chickens next, and then what? Are you lambs?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. That's cool.
And maybe some turkeys. Yeah, we're not super sure. We're
Just trying to just play it by ear and see how it goes.
right.
That's awesome. So what is the thing, like you were talking about how you and Amy, you and your wife, one of the major reasons why you started shifting to this style of farming, it was because you really cared about where your meat came from, right? What do you want people to know, man? like,
Right.
How do you know? Like, what do you look for? Like, do you know what to look for in the grocery store how do you know that your meat's coming from someplace good? Like, how do you know you're getting good quality meat? How do you know your farmers, what do you do?
Well, that's a good question. It's a good question. But I think it's oh man, I don't know. I guess I used to think, hey, beef is beef, chicken's chicken. But it's not. I mean, if you look at people, like some people are healthy and some people are not healthy, and then there's everything in between. But
Right.
but I mean, so to just say that beef is beef and chicken is chicken, is there's just a lot of problems with their industrial food system that I mean, what let's see what impacts our health, our diet, exercise and stress, right?
Yeah.
So if you've got animals in confinement, they're not getting exercise, they're not, and their diet is not natural if it's all just force fed. The cows in the feedlots aren't choosing what they're eating, or the chickens in these, houses have no access to grass or what they're eating, or yeah.
Yeah. So
And stress, it's just not a stressful environments will cause. Just look at it. Look at the cattle that are transported across the country and put in confinement environments, or that creates sickness that's treated with antibiotics or whatever, and then it's mass treated with more to prevent that. So we're just trying to look at what's best for
just the health of the animal.
Right.
It seems like, and this is sort of like the approach that I've taken, it seems like I'm sure there's lots of, organic is probably better than not organic. And, I'm sure there's things that you can do to, buy better meat. Probably the best thing you could do is just to get to know your farmer.
Exactly. Even the organic stuff. Don't think that like Tyson and these big players aren't. They're seeing people paying a premium for an organic label, so they're going to figure out how to get a premium for their products too. If they
Right.
can give their their animals switch the feed rations a little bit. I read something the other day like a lot of the grass-fed cattle that are grass-fed are being fed grass pellets in confinement. But yeah, you're exactly. I mean, even certifications don't necessarily mean. There are some really good. I feel like my dad is raising good beef cattle. But then there's some that's not. And when you go to the grocery store, there's no way of knowing what's good or not. I mean, people can argue about the labels and certifications, but yeah, like you said, the only way to know what you're eating is to know your food, or to know your farmer, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the major reasons why I wanted to get you on this podcast, because I think not enough people are really. More people are doing it, but I don't think enough people are putting a lot of thought into, what comes into their house, what they put on their plate, what they choose to eat. And I think, like you were saying, with the animals, they're getting unhealthy because they're getting unhealthy food. Obviously, like humans are getting unhealthy because we're eating unhealthy food. And I think I heard on a podcast or something the other day that was saying that, like, there's 100 million diabetic or pre-diabetic Americans, like today. That's 1 in 3 Americans are diabetic or pre-diabetic. And that's crazy. And I think having better relationships with, like, starting a relationship with a farmer and knowing where you get your food, joining a CSA, buying local, and all those things, I think are really, really important. Because you're, like, first off, you're getting a much healthier product. And secondly, you're supporting somebody who's creating that better product, So, like, we obviously live in America, capitalism and everything else, but you vote with your dollars. And if you want to support, good quality, like, food coming into your market, then support the farmers who are creating it, Because, like, I mean, you're, obviously, like, you're doing all right, like your family's has a house, there's heat in the house now, but you're not like rolling in the dough yet.
Right.
So, it'd be cool to, I don't know, sell more chickens and spread a better quality food source to the region, to the area.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that even we're learning more about is just, we talked about how our chicken was processed, but how many people know about how the industry chicken's processed? You know how to eviscerate that chicken, right? I mean, you are an expert at eviscerating, but the industry chickens are all eviscerated mechanically, and they don't do it near as good as you do. They might
they're not as thorough.
They might bust some intestines or some gallbladders, and which leads to needing chemicals to make sure that stuff's not contaminated. It's just yeah. I mean, you just don't know. You just don't know what you're eating unless you know. And that's something, I mean, our family's just trying to learn more about. And it's not just with meat. I mean, it's with vegetables and, produce. A lot of the commodity vegetables are not grown for the nutrition or the way but grown for shelf life, to be transportable or, I mean, there's just a lot of problems with our food industry, and we don't have all the answers, but we just want to, I guess, having kids, it's one thing if I'm going to feed myself bad food and get sick, but whenever we start feeding our kids, we want to, make sure that we're, doing what's best for them.
Yeah.
And it really is, And we can't produce food for what you can get a steak at the grocery store or a chicken at the grocery store. I mean, I wish we could. I wish, but we wouldn't be able to stay in business if we were selling chickens for $6 a piece, or we just can't do it as much as we would like to, and that's kind of been a problem. But it's just it's just. The food we eat is just like the best investment we can make in our life. Or, I mean, you just think about how many meals will you eat in a lifetime? And just think about how complex your body is to keep, for your heart to keep beating and your lungs to keep breathing, and just to, your body is run on what you put in it, right? Yeah. And if it's, if we put, and you mentioned, the health of our country, if we keep on putting bad food in our bodies are going to have problems, right?
Yeah, and I love the way that you said it. It's like, food is an investment to your health. We talk about that with the gym all the time. That fitness, you're not joining a gym. You're investing in your health. You're not buying expensive, more expensive chicken. You're literally making an investment for your health, and that stuff tastes better. Like,
it really does. Like, no kidding.
The chickens you make taste just richer, just more like chicken. Tastes like chicken.
Right.
It's really good quality stuff. And I found it's harder to overcook your chickens, either because I care more about them, so I'm being more cautious about how I cook them, or they're just a little more robust. I don't know if that's culinarily makes any sense. That's just what I found.
Right.
The breasts stay more tender, and the thighs and legs are just incredible.
That's been part of the problem as far as getting people to buy food whenever there's cheaper food available. Like you can go to the grocery store and get healthy food that's not local food, or not that's just industry commodity food that's a lot cheaper, but we just don't know what it is, and so it's I lost where I was going with that.
No, I mean, it makes sense. So you can obviously, you can get, I mean, with anything, you can get cheaper, inferior quality anywhere you go. If you want good quality stuff, you're going to pay more, and, local, supporting your local farmer is no exception.
And at the end of the day, if we're putting our money into, it's about priorities, really. You know what I mean? Yeah. Is our health a priority or not? At the end of the day, what's going to prevent you from, if our money is going into our house, our car, our entertainment, our vacations, or whatever, those things aren't necessarily going to keep us healthy. You know what I mean? So it's not just invest in gold and get rich. That gold isn't going to prevent you from getting cancer or what. It's the best investment you can make in your life is in your health, which goes hand in hand with, it's not just about what you eat, but it's a huge part of it.
Yep. And if you're concerned about price, then buy the best quality chicken that you can buy, but instead of buying the pieces, buy the whole bird. Right. It's so much cheaper. You can buy the whole bird, and then probably after 5 or 6 birds, you'll get the hang of how to break it down. But it's pretty easy to break it down. You can break it down into all of the different parts, and for the cost of a $8-10 bird, you can get both of the breasts and the tenders for basically the same price as you would buy the whole bird. If you buy boneless, skinless breast, you're probably paying $6 to $8 just for those 2 breasts, right? And then you can basically get the whole bird for that price. So if you're a little on the price conscious side, just buy the whole bird and just learn how to break it down.
And if you can't afford it, just come down and you can work for food. You just process chickens.
That's right.
We'll send you back with a bunch of them.
That's right. So cool. So how do people find out about you, Will? What's your farm called?
Old Rich Valley Farm.
Old Rich Valley Farm.
Yep. We don't have a website up and going yet.
But you're on Facebook, right?
We are on Facebook. Yep.
So go to Facebook, Old Rich Valley Farms, and follow along. And then buy some chicken from Will.
Or beef.
Or beef.
Or both.
Or both. And eventually pork, and then eventually lamb, and then we didn't talk alpacas, but we'll get there one day.
Right, alpacas, yeah.
Cool.
Or just come and see us. You don't have to. You can just come down, check us out.
Yep, exit 47 off 81. All right. Thanks, Will.
All right.